Hey guys, Josh here today. We are here to make some predictions for the F1 2016 season. So of course it's the Australian Grand Prix this weekend. We'll have a preview of that tomorrow, and we'll also have a rather different video on Friday doing a kind of race forecast and looking back on practice 1 and 2. Anyway, before we get to that though, we have some predictions to make. Yes, that's right, for the F1 2016 season. And it's going to be a very, very tough one to predict. But we're going to give it our best shot, and we're going to be starting off then with last place in the Constructors' standings and working our way up. And then we'll also be doing some bonus predictions along the way, as long as also looking at the 11 drivers who are going to come out on top in the teammate battles. Let's get straight into it then, talking about 11th and last. And I do think in 11th place is going to be a MANA Mercedes, but only just. Of course, this also means if this does come true, they won't get any prize money, and that's a big shame, a rule I'm a bit surprised they haven't really changed yet. Of course, brought in, I think, 2013. Or was it 2014? One of those years anyway, where 11th place gets no prize money, so that could be a major blow for whoever finishes 11th, and it's really going to make the battle for 9th place, 10th place and 11th place a really, really good one to watch in 2016. I think it's going to be very, very close, but I don't think MANA are going to get the massive advantage many people are thinking they're going to get from the Mercedes engine, mainly because their two rivals, Haas and Sauber, both have a Ferrari engine that's not really that far off the Mercedes and is arguably on par with it, so as well, MANA's aero package really isn't that great when you compare it to Sauber and Haas. It's definitely not quite as developed, and certainly as the season goes on, they're probably going to fall behind in the development race. However, they do have Pascal Wehrlein. He's a major talent for the future, and will probably be the best rookie of 2016. Rui Harianto, on the other hand, is not the best driver. He's going to struggle in qualifying, but I think he'll come on strong in a couple of races. But I doubt he's going to score points, but I do think Pascal Wehrlein can score points in, let's say, 3 races this year at least. In 10th place then, I do think it's going to be the Haas team, but only just. It's going to be a very interesting season for them. They might be last in the Constructors early on, with reliability gremlins likely going to be holding them back early on. But I think as the season progresses, Haas should really develop, and as they understand Formula 1 even more, they should just continue to grow, of course, with support from Ferrari as well. Well, the support from Ferrari probably has kind of ended, for the time being, really, with that being very much restricted. Of course, they could do as much as they liked with Ferrari last year, of course, when they weren't officially in Formula 1. But of course the tough work does really start for them now, and it's going to be very tough for them early on in the season. But I think with Romain Grosjean, a very capable driver, they can get some really good points. Certainly later on, it might even have the 7th or 8th quickest car as we finish the season, but I think to start off with, they're probably only going to have the 10th or maybe even the slowest car on the grid. Gutierrez as well is not the best driver and will probably mess up really quite a few times and just can't quite extract as much as Romain Grosjean does. But I do think Gutierrez will have an improved year compared to, say, his rookie year in 2013, which was a bit of a disaster really. But he has had some really tough teammates, of course, Adrian Sutil. We'll have to see how he gets on this year. He's got another tough teammate though in Romain Grosjean, who should have a very good year, of course, chasing that Ferrari seat. Sauber, I think, are going to be 9th this year. I think Felipe Nasr will win the teammate battle between Nasr and Ericsson. I think Marcus Ericsson should have an improved year. He was pretty good actually last year, and I think he kind of exceeded many people's expectations of him, and he really didn't face that much criticism, and rightly so. I mean, yes, he was outpointed, by quite a long way, but really that's because Nasr was, on top of it really, very early on when Sauber were capable of scoring big points. When Sauber were only capable of scoring the odd point, Ericsson was arguably head in the teammate battle, so I think we should see another good year for Ericsson, but I think Nasr is really going to hit his stride in 2016 as he understands the Brembo brakes more, which was really the thing that was holding him back. I am a bit worried for Sauber though. In one way I do think they're going to finish last in the Constructors, but I kept faith in them. I put them 9th because I think they're going to be very strong early on. They always produce a good car at some point in the season, either at the start or at the end, but I do think it's going to be at the start where they produce a good car. They're also probably the least funded team on the grid now. Now MANA have got Mercedes engines and have had more financial backing injected into the team. I think MANA possibly overtaken Sauber in the budget standings, so it's going to be very tough for Sauber, and 9th place would be a massive achievement, and I think they'll just about do it. In 8th place then, I think it's going to be Renault. Of course, this is a team that built a chassis built for a Mercedes engine. but then it turned out they're getting a Renault engine this year, and that's certainly a massive downgrade. I mean, if you look at what they could do with a Mercedes engine, they only finished 6th, and yes, okay, they had loads of off-track issues, but nevertheless, you know, they couldn't really build a very good car last year, and pretty much the same people who designed and funded the 2015 car have kind of funded the 2016 car, and of course those backers who have now sold the team had no interest really in funding, you know, the future years. So of course this car isn't going to be that good, I don't think. But you know, 2 very good drivers in Magnussen and Jolyon Palmer as well. So I think Magnussen will come out on top in the teammate battle there. But I do think Renault can impress, and you know, maybe they'll get better. But I think my main worry is not just with their chassis, which is definitely far behind the other team using their, of course, Renault engines or Tag Heuer engines. Of course, that's Red Bull. But I also think their engine is severely lacking. Daniel Ricciardo's kind of comments after he used it at the back end of last year were really not great, and they don't seem to have made major strides, judging by testing pretty much. You know, it's looking at the speed traps, looking at kind of what people are saying within the paddock. You know, there's not a great buzz around the Renault engine this year, and it might be equal to its 2015 counterpart, which is certainly not a very good thing, and could possibly even be behind the 2015 Ferrari power unit. And that's why I think Toro Rosso are probably going to beat a Renault, and they might beat a couple of other teams as well, but I'll come on to them a bit later. I do think Renault then are going to suffer from quite a few reliability issues as well, and certainly just a lack of pace from that Renault engine is really going to hurt the Enstone team, and that's why I think they'll be finishing 8th in 2016. In 7th place then, I think it's going to be a McLaren Honda. And now this is an interesting one really. Of course, they've got both Fernando Alonso and Jenson Button, and I think it's going to be so close for 6th, 8th, 7th, maybe even 8th as well. You know, it's tough really to predict where McLaren are, and I think they are going to impress this season. You know, people seem to be a bit bleak on their chances. There seems to be like no expectation from McLaren. I think most people just think they're going to finish 8th really, but I'm going to be optimistic and say they can finish 7th and maybe even challenge for 6th in the Constructors against my 6th place team, which I'll come on to in just a minute. But yeah, I think it should be a much better year for McLaren, but still not quite where they want to be. But in terms of reliability, it should be much better, and that should enable them to be ahead of the Renault team. And it could be quite a good battle between McLaren and Renault, 2 historic teams fighting over 7th place in the Constructors standings. Quite a weird thing to say, but I think that's what's going to happen. In terms of the teammate battle, I'd probably say Alonso will come out on top, but Button should be pushing him all the way. Arguably, Button is in the form of his life, really. These last few years, he's really found a new... probably 2011 was probably his best year, but he still kind of found this new kind of lease of life, really, and new girlfriend, of course, as well for the 2016 season. Bit of an upgrade, but anyway, we should probably swiftly move on to the 6th place team, which I do think is going to be Toro Rosso, of course, using that 2015 power unit. Many people have majorly high expectations. Some people saying they're going to finish 4th, which I highly doubt, to be honest. Let's not forget, at the end of the day, they do have a year-old engine, and yes, okay, that arguably might be better than the 2016 Renault engine, which I don't know. I don't think it is, but it's certainly right up there. Arguably, well, you could argue it's above the 2016 Renault engine, which would be highly embarrassing for Renault. But yeah, I think that Ferrari engine should really help them. It's just great to see that Toro Rosso are going to have a really reliable car. And that should enable Sainz and Verstappen to regularly score points, and should be enough for at least 6th place in the Constructors standings. But they should face big pressure from, of course, the 2 big teams in Formula 1, Renault and McLaren. But I think a very strong driver lineup does really help them. I think Carlos Sainz Jr. is going to outpoint Max Verstappen. I've been back and forth on this one quite a bit since the start of the year, but I'm going to say Sainz is going to outpoint Max Verstappen. 5th place in the Constructors, I do believe, is going to be Red Bull Racing. I think it could be quite a dire season for them. It was pretty bad last year, and it might be similar levels of bad this year, really. I mean, the Renault engine certainly seems a lot more reliable. They certainly have one of the best chassis. Oh, that's what I forgot to mention as well about Toro Rosso. Certainly have one of the best chassis on the grid. I'd argue probably 3rd or 4th best aero, on that Toro Rosso. Out of all the 2016 cars, they're looking very impressive. As are Red Bull as well. It looks a lot better than the 2015 car, which was, pretty poor really by Red Bull standards, but of course still ahead of most teams in Formula 1. This year, they certainly have, I think, probably the 2nd best chassis in Formula 1. but of course the third best engine, and that's what's really hurt them over these past few years, and is going to hurt them this year as well. And it's a major shame to say, but I think it's going to be very close. I mean, it's tough because, well, I'll just say it now, I've got Force India in fourth, and Williams in third. I think it could be, close between these three teams, and I do hope that Red Bull can, challenge Ferrari and maybe even Mercedes, but I just can't really see it happening. I mean, sure, they're probably going to be closer to Mercedes, of course, in the wet, possibly even ahead of them, just like we saw at COTA last year. Force India aren't going to be doing that. They're not going to be ahead of Mercedes at any time. They're not going to be ahead of Ferrari any time, but Red Bull can be. But then on the same day, they might be, behind Toro Rosso early on in the season. So I think it could be a difficult season for Red Bull, and maybe they could get, I think, I've seen people predicting they're going to be 7th or 8th. I really can't see that. I think they could be right up there. They could very easily be 4th or even 3rd in the Constructors. But I am going to predict they are going to finish 5th this year. And of course, as I mentioned, Force India are going to be 4th. The team are kind of playing down their chances, but I think they've got a very decent car this year and could certainly pick up where they left off at the end of 2015. Although they might not be getting regular podiums in 2016, which I think Perez will get 2 podiums and Hulkenberg will get no podiums, I do think they're going to have a really, really good car, which can probably regularly finish 5th or 6th in races. I'll say Perez can get 3 podiums and Hulkenberg will get his first podium. There's a bit of a wild prediction, but kind of randomly just change my mind. I think Sergio Perez will just win the teammate battle, but I don't know, it could go either way. You can't predict Perez and Hulkenberg seasons. I mean, they just have such inconsistency, especially last year when they just kind of swapped roles. Perez is usually the inconsistent one, but came up all, consistent, and then Hulkenberg was just crashing every other race and just wasn't happy with the car. So it might depend on, where Nico Hulkenberg is in terms of his feeling for the car. If he's on top of his game, Hulkenberg's probably slightly better, but Perez, if he can carry on this consistency, it's going to be a big contender for a top team in Formula 1 in 2017. So certainly Sergio Perez and Nico Hulkenberg, 2 drivers to watch, and I think Force India could scrape 4th place in the Constructors' standings. But hey, I'm a Force India fan after all. Williams, I think, are going to be 3rd once again for the 3rd year in a row, but that's certainly not a bad thing, and I think they could be closer to Mercedes and Ferrari, certainly a lot closer than many people believe. And this is mainly because I think they may have fixed some of the issues that have really been holding them back in the past 2 years in terms of car design. Have they fixed the team errors though? I'm still not quite sure. How can they actually do a proper race strategy now? Can they actually outfox Ferrari and Mercedes in terms of strategy? I still kind of doubt it, but we'll have to see. As long as their car actually works in the wet this year and actually works around Monaco, then Williams have a very decent chance of maintaining 3rd. And who knows, if Kimi Raikkonen has an awful season, Williams could certainly, maybe, even pressure Ferrari for 2nd place in the Constructors, but I do doubt it. And a quick prediction, I don't think they can win a race this year. But I do think Red Bull can win a race, which sounds very weird considering I'm putting Red Bull down at 5th, but I believe that if we do have a crazy race, it's going to be someone like Red Bull out of all the teams other than Ferrari and Mercedes who are going to be capitalising. So I'm going to predict if we do get a 3rd different team winning a race in 2016, I think it will be Red Bull. Also point as well that I forgot to mention about the tyres, of course, this year with the new kind of tyre rules. I think that's definitely going to benefit Force India, and that's another reason why I think they could be right up there with quite a few shock results, and that's my justification for Perez getting 3 podiums. I think it's going to be a crazy year, and I think Perez is going to be the man for it really this year. Although I do think it's going to be very close in the points. I think Perez will come out on top. In terms of Williams, I didn't mention Red Bull, did I? In terms of the teammate battle, I think it's going to be Daniel Ricciardo. I think this is a year where he gets his reputation back. As for Williams, Valtteri Bottas has got to be, hasn't it, really? I think he's really got to step up his game if he wants that 2017 Ferrari seat. And speaking then of Ferrari, we've got Ferrari left and we've got Mercedes left. Who am I putting 1st and 2nd? Well, yeah, you guessed it, I'm putting Mercedes 1st and Williams 2nd. I just can't see a team with Kimi Raikkonen in it winning the Constructors' standings unless Ferrari have a truly dominant car or Kimi Raikkonen steps up his game. They really don't, I just can't see him challenging Mercedes for the Constructors' standings, especially considering Rosberg is in a really, really good form at the moment and is in pretty good shape going into the season, which does kind of mean that, Rosberg and Hamilton on top of the game, that's a really, really tough team to beat. So I think Mercedes will be 1st in the Constructors' standings. Ferrari are going to be picking up 5 wins this year, all courtesy of Sebastian Vettel, and then the rest will all go to Rosberg and Hamilton, I reckon. I can't see anyone else winning a race, but I really hope I'm wrong. people are predicting like Fiat, Ricciardo are going to win a race, Bottas, Massa, but I really can't see it, to be honest. I think we are going to have 3 different winners once again in 2016. I know it's very pessimistic, but I really, really hope I'm wrong. And in terms then of who's going to win between Vettel and Raikkonen, well, this is a tough one, but clearly it's Sebastian Vettel. Any doubt about that? Then let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll be very interested to hear if anyone actually thinks Raikkonen can beat Vettel this year. But I highly, highly doubt it. But kudos to you if you are right in the end. Hamilton and Rosberg again, who's going to come out on top? I want to say Rosberg. I want to say he's going to win this year. Not because I like Rosberg more than Hamilton, which probably do. I don't really like either of them, to be honest. But I think it'd be good for F1 if Rosberg won, because then heading into 2017 and future years, at Mercedes we'd have a guy who's won 2 World Championships and a guy who's won 1 championship. They both have championship winning experience. It'd just be a good team dynamic, because if Hamilton won this year for a 3rd year in a row, then he'd just kind of be a dominant team leader. And certainly if Ferrari do close up to Mercedes and they're pretty much equal for 2017, we could see favouritism at Mercedes and they could just kind of concentrate on one driver. But if both of their drivers are of equal calibre and of kind of equal demand and power within the team, then, both of them could be going for the championship. And, people have said this year that we could have Hamilton versus Rosberg all kicking off. We might have a kind of 1986 feel where Alan Prost just swoops in under the Williams drivers' noses and, he just wins the title for McLaren, or the driver's title, of course, while driving for McLaren. And, I can't really see that happening with Vettel winning, but my top 3 then in the Drivers' Championship, I think it's going to be Hamilton, Vettel, Rosberg, but it should be very, very close this year. I think it's going to be more like 2014 in terms of the battle between the Mercedes drivers. I think it's going to be a lot closer than it was in 2015. I certainly hope I'm not wrong, and it's certainly not going to be like the first half of 2015 where Hamilton just out-qualified Rosberg in like 9-1 or something. So let's hope the Mercedes battle is going to be a lot closer this year. Let's hope all the teams score points, which I do predict they will. And let's hope we just get some really, really close teammate battles and some really close team battles as well for first all the way down to last place in the Constructors' standings. Anyway, it's been a rather long video, but I hope you guys have stuck with me to the end. If you guys have, then be sure to leave your top 11 in the comment section below, and also your top 3 in the driver standings. Mine, of course, as I mentioned, is Hamilton, Vettel, Rosberg, but hopefully they'll be covered by like 2 points or something. That'll be a fantastic year. I think this year is going to be good, better than 2015, better than 2014, probably, maybe not. From Wings, I don't know, depends. I think it's going to be like better than 2013, better than 2015, but probably not up there really with, say, like a 2011 season, which in my opinion is one of the most underrated seasons ever. On that note, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.